Okay, I fixed a thing. Yesterday I didn't do any game stuff because I was focused on other things, which is fine. But I was watching this movie. It's like this. It's the best shit I've ever seen. Granted, I watched the other one too, the prequel of the first one. This and then the second one, best movies I've ever seen. China's going ham. It's insane. It's amazing. So, there was I think it was just one. I guess it was just one issue. What was it? I did something else too. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, there were two issues. I just remembered. So yesterday when I was, or day before yesterday, when I'm in a level and you try to cast a spell, fuck, I can't start the game because it's going to do it. If you cast a spell that isn't contained in the spell book, I would get an error here and it would say that we accessed index -1, and apparently you can't use negative indexes when indexing arrays in Unreal's blueprints, something like that. Basically, it was saying access -1, and the point is that there isn't an array element there. Why was it doing that? Well, because it was an assumption. I assumed this worked like C++. It doesn't, because there's a shortcoming of Unreal, but it is what it is. Basically, when you use a find node, because it doesn't have a second pin that returns whether it found anything or not, and then you can check that before actually using the index, it just returns a different... Oh, well, I should have known. It gives you -1 if not found. So, two things. I was combining these, the not on cooldown and that the spell is contained, so it needs to be found and it needs to be not on cooldown. I was combining those with an and bool and returning that, because if it's not found, I don't want to cast it. If it's not contained, or sorry, if it's on cooldown, I don't want to cast it. So this not would be false. And if it's not contained at all, I also don't want to cast it either. The problem is this. Normally in C++, when I have an and, like if I can't show you now, but we'll do Notepad. So like if I do return x and z, okay, if, or rather, I guess we could say, well, let's see. Yeah, if I return x and z, what happens here is that if x is false, then we automatically return false. And we don't even evaluate z. The problem is that in Unreal, that's not the case. So here, if contains is false, the book doesn't contain it, I want to just short circuit, don't even evaluate z, which in this case would be finding the index. Don't even look at that, because that's going to give us a -1 error because we found an invalid index. Don't even look at that, just return early. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like this in Unreal. Instead, it looks at X and says, okay, false. And then it looks at Z, even though the AND result has to be false. Oh, sorry, this is wrong logic. That was a bitwise AND. You have to do 2 ANDs. Yeah, I did that because it looks weird in Notepad. It's wider than normal, so it looked like I had done 2. It's just kind of weird. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But then it also evaluates Z to find what the index is and check whether it's not on cooldown. I don't want to do this, so the only way I can mimic this now is by saying if not, or rather, well, basically we're saying return not, or well, we're saying if not x, then return false, and then if only after, if it is x, then we check this. If x is found or whatever, if find x is true, or actually rather it's return find x. Okay, that's basically what's happening here. We're saying if it's not found, then immediately return, because the book doesn't have it. And then afterwards, that means it must be found. There must be a valid index that's not -1, because it's found, in this case. It is contained in our array. The spell we're trying to cast is found in our book of spells. Then we check the index, which will find the spell for sure. And we return whether it is not on cooldown. So if it's false, then we return true. If it's true, it is on cooldown, we return false, because we can't cast a spell that's on cooldown. Cool, that solves that. The other thing is, whenever I was casting spells, and the page of the spell was out, the page would pixelate a little bit. It doesn't do that anymore. Freeze. Now it's seamless, and it happens for any of the spells, or it will do any map too. Freeze. Fireball. Magic missile. Magic missile. Now it's seamless, and it just goes out. I fixed that by changing what I initially changed. So previously I was using dynamic material instances because I was going to fade the spell pages out by changing their opacity. Instead, I had to abandon that because in order to change the opacity of a material, you must make the material translucent. But by making the material translucent, you can see the other pages through the material, and it fucks with the normals because that's how translucent works. And it might just be a bug because it only occurs in the animation. I'm not sure. It's very weird. Nobody else knows about it, so whatever. I fixed that by just doubling my assets and just making a separate material that's grayed out for each one. And maybe it would make more sense to just change the colors of them. It probably actually makes more sense, but for now it's fine because I'm not going to be, these aren't going to be the final materials anyway, so it's whatever. Probably not. So it's fine. So I switched back to using regular materials because I no longer needed to change parameters in the materials at runtime. So I no longer needed them to be dynamic. But then, and it worked, but then using the spells, casting Fireball with the Fireball page exposed would pixelate the page when it was transitioning from one material to another. It's castable material to its cooldown material. It would pixelate. It would go from being this decently resolution image to being like a 16 by 16 thing, and it just looked janky, and it was weird looking. So I fixed that by just going back. I just went back to dynamic material instances. I just changed the types of these from material to dynamic material instance that you can just search for. And then I compiled, it would give you a bunch of errors, and then you could just go and find where each one is. One of them was in here, this dynamic material. Actually, it might not have been in here. Or yeah, it was, because we were returning. No, it wasn't. So I had to go in here, and instead of just taking the material for each spell, I would now add in this extra thing that we used to have, but now I re-added to create a dynamic material from it to avoid this janky pixelation. And then I had to change the return type from material to dynamic material instance. And then I had to go in and changing these types automatically updated what we're returning here. Because in order to set this material, it added an extra thing in here because page one material used to be non-dynamic, but then it became dynamic. So we had two versions of it, and I just had to connect the other one, and it deleted the other. So I had to fix those. And then I had to go into here and reconnect this. I had to go in here and find any instances where we were using these materials. It would make it be red. I'll just show you what it looks like here. If I go in and change the type, and we go back, it does this. So it gives you a duplicate version. It says, hey, here's this new material version, and here's the old dynamic material version that we're no longer using. I could just Control-Z it, and we're fine again. But I had to go and I would reconnect it with the correct pin, and then the other one would disappear. Sick. That worked. In C++, you just get a bunch of errors, and then you'd have to go through and fix them. But here, easy peasy, and now we're good. I just switched it, so now we're going back to dynamic, and I renamed this function to be dynamic material. And I also starting pages materials. Okay. And then to make sure that each page on the start of the game, each page is automatically using these dynamic materials and they don't get overwritten once you flip to them, we want them to be dynamic from the start. Because if I leave them by default, if we go into the skeleton, into the skeletal mesh, these can't be dynamic materials. Dynamic materials don't exist as standalone assets. You have to create them at runtime, which is interesting. But, so these are regular materials. So if I just create the spell book, they're going to be regular materials. On begin play, I was calling this function and it would make the main page be dynamic. But now I also make the other ones dynamic. That way there's no delay between switching the page and then making it dynamic, and then seeing it. I need it to be dynamic from the get-go. I don't care what the material is, so I just set it to be whatever they already are by default. That's fine. And those are probably blank or black or something like that, but it doesn't matter because the second we switch, it's already dynamic. We just update the texture live. There's no pixelation. Good to go. And to go and test, we'll go to forest because we have all the spells there. Yo. All right. See, we have all of these. So invisibility. Okay, never mind. Maybe it doesn't work. Great. Magic missile. Freeze. Shield. See, okay, so sometimes it actually is wonky. Lightning bolt. Lightning bolt. Thunderclap. Ah, well that doesn't help because I can't see shit. Blindness. See, okay, well, I'm actually not sure then. Fireball. So those work. I'm not sure why these ones pixelate like that. Beam. Beam. Wait, what? Beam. Oh, did I forget to add that? Maybe? No, I did. That's one of the spell names. So... Huh. Not sure why that doesn't work right now, actually. Well, I thought I fixed that. I guess it doesn't work for the other pages. Maybe I'm just wrong. So if we initialize the book, get the data table rows. Let me go to the spell and go and make sure that that's actually called beam, that it has a name. Unless maybe it doesn't. It doesn't, that's why. There we go. Okay. I doubt that's going to explain anything. Oh wait, we're on maze that doesn't have it. Do forest. Alright, yo. Beam. 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 Hello? Fireball. Beam. Beam? What the fuck is happening? Crunch. That works. Beam. Bro. Beam. Okay. Did I not update where beam is in the casting? It goes here. Beam local. I guess I'll go to the... Oops. Go to the actual speech recognition and then see if I fucked around with it. Did I change it? I don't know. Oh, beams v10, so it's probably just hard to say. Let me try that again. Beam. Oh, beam. Beam? Bro, hello? The fuck is that? I'm putting it at V2, I guess. I mean, it exists. Yo, beam. Okay. Did I just fuck it up? Was it just too high? Is V8 somehow super hard? What's my mic setting at? It's on the regular one, so it should be fine. I guess it is kind of wonky on this version, but beam. Beam. Okay, it works now, but... Okay, I fixed that, so I mean, I guess I'll just add that in real quick. Beam data table, add no name, or well, added, gave beam its missing name in data table, and that's all I've done. I mean, well, I also changed the tolerance. Also, reduce tolerance because it wouldn't cast. Okay. It's too hot now. I'm wearing the jacket for too long. The temperature finally caught up because it's actually daytime. So now the question is the pixelation. It works for the first couple, but not for the others. I wonder if it's because... Well, let me go look at the textures. Maybe they're baked wrong. Maybe I actually do have to put them in Blender because... I mean, I wouldn't think so, but... Like there's lightning bolt versus... Like there's fireball. And then there's lightning bolt. Like they're the same size. I mean, maybe that's it. I'll probably test that. I'll have to go into Blender and do something real quick. So if it works for Fireball, Freeze, and Magic Missile, then... Fuck. Then that means I'd have to do it for the others too. So this might be... Well... The textures are good by default. So maybe I have to actually change this and just grayscale the colors of the materials instead. The issue is when I cast Lightning Bolt and it switches from this material to its cooldown Lightning Bolt material, this one, where it's grayed out. So you can say, okay, I can't cast it yet because it's not its yellow version. One option is just to update the material. I just didn't think about that. I could just change the color of the material, I think maybe. And then that could work. Alternatively, because it's working right now for Fireball, Freeze, and Magic Missile, I created those by going into Blender, adding the default material that I drew before that was of a different size. It was like this. I put it into Blender. I messed around with it in the nodes in the shader to make it appear properly on the page in the right location, because if I put it like this by default, it's all wonky. It's like way too big and it's over to the side and it's just trash. So I fit it to the material and then I have to bake it to the mesh, and that will let me export it. And when I export it from Blender, then it comes out like this, where it has a bunch of missing spots. And when you put it on a material, the material is a sphere of mostly black, and then this. You put it on the page, it's good. So if it's happening seamlessly for Fireball, Freeze, and Magic Missile, the only three I did through Blender, and all the others I created by going in, creating a template by opening paint.net, I took the texture, or I took the background color, excuse me, and then I did something kind of like that, just to remove the background, and then whatever, something like that, and then I don't know, something like this. Now we're good. Now we have the basic thing, and then I can draw whatever the hell I want on it. I can make the lightning bolt, whatever, and then the ground, something like that, and saving it. Maybe that's a different process than the baking, and the baking actually does something else besides just giving me this PNG. Because it's only happening for these, and because Freeze and Fireball have this little like blended out smudgy thing and the others don't, maybe something actually did happen that's special in these PNGs that is more than just drawing the thing. And when I switch from the Blender PNG to the non-Blender PNG, something isn't smooth about it. So something is good for Freeze, Fireball, and Magic Missile, and is not good for all the rest. These. What the fuck? Okay, and so one option is either to bring all the other ones and their cooldown versions, or at least just all of these ones, into Blender and export them. Alternatively, I'm just going to go into the material and see if I can, because it's dynamic now, I'm going to see if I can update it to be grayscale or something like that. Or, yeah, I'm going to see if I can just add in It's already a dynamic material instance. I might swap it from using a material to instead using, I guess it is a material. I think I'll just create it, and then in the material, I'll add a parameter, and I think I can adjust that at runtime from the dynamic material instance. And it'll be like the grayscale opacity or something. So I'm going to go and find out how I can go into a material. Okay, I haven't changed anything in the in here, so we're good. I'll go into the characters, spell stuff to get the assets, the page materials. And I'll see if I can add something in here to make it gray. And if I can do that, then I'll be set. Like, what happens if I just took the blue? Oh, well, that actually just might be the answer. So maybe I can somehow do that at runtime to make it swap over. And then we'll be set. And then I can adjust that at runtime, and maybe that avoids the pixelation. Maybe. So it's seamless, kind of like that. So we'll see. Okay.